Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Tina from Quantum Healing with Tina. I'm a Beyond Quantum Healing practitioner, spirit releasement therapist, intuitive empath, and newly certified remote spirit release practitioner. And today we're here with Karen.
Hello, everybody. I'm an intuitive starseed, energetic healer, BQH practitioner, channel medium, and remote spirit release practitioner. Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Check.
Check. So today we're going to talk about the difference between spirit release therapy and remote spirit release. So spirit release therapy is SRT, remote spirit release is RSR. And the difference is with SRT, it's done under hypnosis. So say you can have it done separately, like you can just have a spirit release session, or if it comes up within a BQH session, we deal with the attachments then. So if you already suspect that you have spirit attachments, you can go right into hypnosis and address those attachments and have just a spirit release therapy session. If you suspect but also want to have a BQH session, or you don't suspect and it just happens to come up within your BQH session, we address it in the same way as we would in a spirit release therapy session. So this is done by you allow the energy, whatever that may be, whether it's an earthbound soul or a dark force entity, or any kind of energy that is attached to your body, you allow that entity, your voice, to speak through you while you're under hypnosis. So we can find out things like, how long has it been there? How did it attach? Why? Because usually the hows and whys have a lesson in it for you to learn. Like usually your vibration's at a certain way, or you're feeling a certain way when it happens, and that's what allows the entity to attach. So we ask these questions. We ask sometimes, it depends on the situation. Like if it's an earthbound soul, we can ask like, well, how did you die? And do you remember your life? And how old were you? And we can also, so then we will pretty much see if this entity has been causing you any kind of physical, emotional, mental, spiritual issues while it's been with you. And usually, even though they don't mean it sometimes they are causing issues. They might just be draining your energy, taking your life force, stealing your light, not in a malevolent kind of way, but just because when you have another being attached to you, you're sharing that energy with each other. So this kind of work goes back over a century now. It started in the 1800s and has been practiced ever since, kind of with trailblazers like William Baldwin and Edith Fiore, up into my current teacher, who is Dr. Terence Palmer. And he practiced SRT before he developed RSR. So we'll get into that in a minute. But SRT, so we address this entity. We find out everything we need to know, how it's affecting you, how it's, related to your life now, why it attached, things like that. And then we will have that entity find their own spark of light within, expand their light out so that it fills them all up. And then we'll have usually someone come down to meet them, to take them to where they need to be, back to source. And that could be Archangel Michael. We could have a loved one come down to meet them, someone from their family, someone that they're familiar with, that they know, so they're not afraid to go, because sometimes they will be afraid to go to the light because this is all they know. And sometimes that's why they didn't go to the light in the first time, because they were afraid. It could be any number of reasons why they didn't go. They could have died traumatically and just kind of got shocked and didn't know what to do upon leaving the body. Sometimes they stay around to comfort their loved ones and then kind of just get stuck here. What are the other reasons they stay?
Like, what is it? Or the I guess an accident or something, so they get thrown out of their body, so they don't even know that they're even
Right.
gone. I know I've seen that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't even know they're dead. Or, yeah.
Yeah. And then when they don't know they're dead, they get stuck in these patterns. So it's like repeating the same
Cycles, yeah.
thing over and over and over again. And then when they have the opportunity, they will attach to a human. We all pick up earthbounds all the time, whether you realize it or not, if you're not actively protecting yourself. And these attachments can be the root of a lot of really serious issues, including schizophrenia, hearing voices, really extreme forms of mental illness like dissociative identity disorder, DID, which is previously known as multiple personality disorder. What they realized with DID was that, yes, it was multiple personalities within these people, but it was because aspects of them started to split off because trauma occurred. And these aspects would split off and hold this trauma for them. And it actually developed a whole nother being, an energetic being with their own personality, their own likes and dislikes and the way they do things. So there are people living with these energies all within them. It's called a system. But anyway, entities can also attach to each of those personalities.
Or aspects.
Yeah.
Fragmentation.
There's a lot of different names for it, yeah. Fragmentation, different aspects, or fractals, or sub-personalities, even ego states. Ego states is another way to qualify these energies. So basically what happens is, this is kind of off topic, but we should just do a video on this. Basically what happens is that energy is like within your body. So it's taking up this space and not allowing you to really move forward because it keeps pulling you back to that point in time where that trauma occurred. And you might have a physical reaction to something and not know why. Like, for example, say you see a dog walking down the street and all of a sudden your body starts to freak out. Your body you're not consciously afraid of dogs, but you were bit by a dog when you were 4 years old, and that aspect of you that split off at that time remembers that. And that's the aspect feeling that anxiety. Consciously, you're not aware of it, but your body is like, oh my God, what's happening? There's a dog here. Like, we have to run, right? So anyway, back to SRT. So if these subpersonalities have attachments, we will address those too. It can get really complicated. That's why I prefer to do this with an RSR session, a remote spirit release session. And in a remote spirit release session, if you've seen our other videos, you already know what that is. But for anyone that doesn't, that hasn't seen them, a remote spirit release session, there's no hypnosis involved. You as the client don't need to know when it's happening. You don't need to be involved in it at all, which is great. What we do is I usually facilitate. Karen is the medium, and we work with her spirit guide, Zen, who does the clearing on you. So the spirit guide goes in to your energy field, locates you by your energetic signature. All we need is your name, your age, and your location for the spirit guide. And so he locates you by your energetic signature, and we run through a protocol of different attachments that you might have. We zoom out, we check your outer field, then we zoom in, we check you for sovereignty, and sovereignty means that you're the only one in control of your body and your thoughts and your emotions. When you have a dark force entity attached, then they can be influencing your thoughts and feelings and emotions. So that means you're not sovereign. So we check you for sovereignty, which means we check you for dark force entities, levels 1 through 3. Level 1s are small, level 3s are like really serious, heavy duty, and require the help from higher spiritual beings that are called on to assist the spirit guide in removing them. Do you want to talk
About
what do we do next? Yeah.
Well, we go grounding. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really remember because like I'm the one who's in it. Inner etheric.
Yeah. So the inner etheric field is like the field directly around your physical body. That's the inner etheric. The outer,
like your aura.
Yeah, like your aura. And there can be attachments in your inner etheric field. There can also be other things that show up, like curses, black magic spells, occult-like ritual activity, negative cords, implants and devices. So we check for all that stuff. And then
chakras.
And then we do chakras. Yeah.
Chakras and earthbounds. I don't know the order.
So we do like a complete cleansing and rebalancing of the chakras. If there's anything in the chakras, say they're holding density, or there might be an implant, or it's just clogged up with energy, we clear out, the spirit guide clears out all the chakras and rebalances them. Yeah.
I bet if you just put me into trance right now and let Zen talk, he'll know what the protocols are. I don't.
You want to do that?
Right now? No. Maybe another time, but I'm just saying, like, because I'm like, I'm just the medium.
It's okay. You're just the medium.
Right. Lazy.
You have the most important part. We couldn't do it without you.
Couldn't do that with
it would just be me and Zen, like. I don't know
with his oven mitts on.
Yeah. Yeah, so we do the chakras, then we check interdimensional parasites.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Interdimensional parasites, and then portals on yourself. Portals can develop from negative energy.
Yes.
The dark forces.
Check the home.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The dark forces can manipulate that energy, making it a negative portal so they can come in and out and have access to you and your environment. So we also check the home and clear the home of any portals. Workplace, sometimes car, all your devices usually.
That seems to be in. I think we should just add that to the protocol. I mean, we'll just cleanse the devices. Like, there's so much AI and negative frequencies on, vibrations and stuff. So you might as well just clear it all out.
Yeah. Yeah. And the internet pathways too. Because devices are...
portals?
They can be, yeah. They can be.
Just like the TV. Well, anything where any waves come in through, to create. It's just like the mirrors too. Yeah.
We see that a lot. So we do a full home cleansing, we check for the portals, but then check for any residual energy that might have come through those portals that's in your house. Mm-hmm. So earthbounds, dark force entities, any just residual energies that might be around that are stagnant or negative or whatever. So it's a full house clearing too. So from there we go to negative past life contracts with dark forces, like specific contracts that people have with dark forces, which does happen sometimes. So those are found and cleared if you do have any. Then we move on to negative self-created thought forms. So sometimes we can think something so much that it really takes on its own life. takes on its own form. That's why they're called thought forms. And they can influence you as well. And this happens a lot of times when you get stuck in those cycles of thoughts that you just can't break no matter how hard you do. It's because you've actually created your own thought form. And so we'll check in with the higher self. The higher self will then usually say, dissolve that, and we'll replace it with more loving thoughts or whatever. And then we check for dissociated subpersonalities. So those aspects we were talking about earlier that are caused by trauma, we check for those subpersonalities and then ask the higher self if, so we check them to see if they have any attachments first, and then ask the higher self if they're ready to be reintegrated, and then we reintegrate it. So then we ask the guide Zen usually, what was the cause of this? Like, what was your point of vulnerability that allowed these things to happen? And so when you get that information, then you can work on those things to prevent this from happening again. And we also give you an explanation of everything that we did and ways to keep yourself clear moving forward, like protecting yourself and grounding and eating well and crystals and such. So that's all in the document that we give you for aftercare. And we also ask for advice from the guide or your higher self of any further advice for moving forward for you, what you need to know. That's usually like the longest part because there's usually a lot of really good information there for you to take forward. So that's the easiest way to deal with entities, right? I mean, because you don't have to do anything. You just let us do the work and remove these things. And the sessions can be really powerful, like really, really powerful. Like you might be carrying things that were forever and like chronic, and you kind of almost didn't even realize it because it was like a part of you. And then all of a sudden this is removed and it's just like you feel like a different person. You know, it could be that big of an effect, or it could be a very small effect. People respond to it differently. You might just feel a little bit lighter. Some people have really powerful effects from it. Some people just love to know that they don't have all this stuff anymore, you know, and that's good enough for them. So yeah, it usually takes about several days, I would say, to really integrate the energy, for the old energy to really move out, like the remnants of the old energy and the new energy to take hold. So it might take several days to really notice the effects, but it's really the easiest way. If you want to address any entities in an SRT session under hypnosis and actually like speak with them and find these things out, that's fine too. I don't mind doing that. It's nothing to be scared of, because really at the root of it, these darker entities and even the earthbounds, like they're just searching for love, even though they might not know it. And usually what happens when we explore a little deeper is like you'll hit a sweet spot where they'll just like break down and start crying. Like that one really resistant one I had with the last client. I should post that session. She gave me permission. She was like really coming at me, like laughing at me and like calling me weak and stupid and all of these things. But once I asked her about her trauma and how this happened to her, that was it.
They're like, oh man, game over.
Yeah, game over.
Exposing.
We rewound time to the place and time where she was planning to come in. And she was before God and had made this agreement with God to experience these things because she thought that she could handle it. So, yeah. Some really amazing things happened with the SRT. Really beautiful moments, like when we removed those entities from Nolan. A 4-year-old little boy that was carrying an entity in his belly for lifetimes. This thing was coming with him and causing all kinds of fear and anxiety. And everything for him.
Yeah, Paul, that was the name of the entity. He was just
Yeah.
like he sounded like a little grumpy, just a little grumpy man.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes they put on a really good front, but you can tell like that's not who they really are. Sometimes they are pretty diabolical, but that only happens once in a really great while. Usually you can convince them to find their light within and move on. If you can't, then you just call in Archangel Michael to remove it, because you always have to remind it like you're giving it a choice. You either go on your own and move on to your next life or whatever you want to do next, have a choice in what you want to do, or we can have you removed and you don't get that choice anymore. The choice isn't yours. You're taken to wherever they deem appropriate. And usually they will decide to choose for themselves to move on. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the two ways we can address entities. So if anyone suspects, I mean, they can cause any number of symptoms. Like you might just have a feeling that something isn't right. Like every time you take a step forward, you feel like you're getting pulled back, which was the case for me. You might actually be hearing voices in your head. You might have a health issue, some kind of health issue, whether it's mental health or physical health. A lot of times physical health issues that can't be diagnosed by medical science have a root in the physical world. I mean, in the spiritual world. And that's why that's why these techniques were developed, because medicine just couldn't cut it,
Right.
because they totally leave out the spirit altogether. So with these methods, and when we take into consideration that everything is spirit, everything is spiritual, and there is a spiritual world, sometimes you get to the root of really chronic health conditions that have been around a long time,
Yeah.
that are suddenly just gone with the release of the spirit. It happens all the time. It's amazing. So that's why I really am so passionate about this work, because people don't need to be carrying these things around, There is a solution for it. And when we're healing really requires a multidimensional approach. I mean, you really have to address like all of it, from the physical, like the actual matter, like the physical foods you eat and the water you drink and the supplements you take, to mental and spiritual. It all needs to be addressed when you're healing from something. You can't just heal like, the physical without the spiritual or the mental or the emotional, because it's all so intertwined. It makes us who we are. So yeah, that's a little about RSR and SRT. If anyone's interested in a session, contact me at quantumhealingwithtina@gmail.com. And don't forget to like this video if you like it, subscribe to our channel, and hit the little bell for notifications. Yeah, and leave us a comment. We love to hear from you. So that's it, and we love you, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Say nothing.